Hello, today we will be going over Yoto Hime's completely rehauled ult and also her abilities and basically how you would use her. So let's go through her first ability, which is Spirit Slash, her F1. Oh, in my case, my E. Yoto Hime flings out her blade at the enemies and causes damage. The blade hangs in the air for 3.5 seconds, and if you tap it again, you teleport. And if you kill them while doing it, it resets the cooldown of the Spirit Blade. Now, the Spirit Blade of your F1 ability actually scales off of the rarity of your weapon. So if I were to do it on the armed, it'd be doing 13 damage. Now, with a white rarity weapon, we do an extra 3 damage. Another 4 damage on a blue rarity weapon. That is from the purple weapon, 28. We had 210 damage on the blade. And then finally, if you're lucky enough to get a gold weapon, $32 a hit, and $240 on the knockout. Now, the primary use of the F1 ability, it has threefold. You can use it as a mobility tool, an offensive tool, and a defensive tool. And this is very similar to all the F abilities. It's just, I think the most versatile is F1. And the main reason for this is it's a combo extender. Now, there's a lot of flexibility on its combos. You can use it with pretty much any weapon that you would so choose. I'll give you an example of an longsword. Just like with any of her F1 extensions, there's a lot of flexibility on how you use it with your weapon. Yoto Hime's next ability is her F2. Now this is purely a offensive tool, since it's called Vortex Crush. And the way that it works is it'll hang at 5 seconds for when it's thrown, slashes once, and unlike F1, it doesn't reset once you kill somebody. The slash can be used while you're under attack as soon as you have the spirit out. So as soon as you have the spirit slash out, let's say you have the Beyblade out, and let's say you're under attack, you can start using the crush, which is the follow-up attack. And just like F1, it does scale off of the rarity of your weapon. The way to use crush is just like F1, but you're more limited to it being an offensive ability. So you would have to do it when you have advantage. F3, this is probably the easiest one to use out of all the Yoto Hime abilities. So it moves out pretty slowly, and just like F2, it hangs for 5 seconds. But it also blocks melee. So like the other slashes, they can block ranged, but only F3 can block melee attacks. So to give you an example, while I'm fighting, let's say I'm at a disadvantage or I just want to reset the neutral, I can throw down the F3, it can start healing inside of it, and follow back up and take back my turn. And it's pretty much all you would do with F3 in a defensive instance. What you can also do with F3, everything you can do with F3 is put it in the air or extend your combos just like F1 and F2. So you have to be really careful on your placement, and it's only with certain weapons that it works best. You're gonna try and uppercut somebody into it in the air. And you know, just have fun and experiment and see what works best. Biggest change to Yoto Hime, as of the Takeda patch, is her ult. So it used to be that her ult was pretty not viable, mainly because people could just tap dodge it while standing still, and it was very predictable, right? It still has its elements of high damage and being able to throw it through terrain, but there's 3 variations to it. You have the regular Omnimus Blade, and you have the Restore, and you have the combo. So the main thing that's different from the basic one is if there's like Karens or like the bodies around, she can consume those Karens, which increase the damage up to 6 times. So if there's like 6 bodies, it's the maximum amount of damage you can cast up. While these ones, Restore and Combo, they don't get the attack bonus. However, I find that V2 and V3 to be the strongest, and V1 to be limiting unless there's a bunch of bodies around. So you gain a lot of health and armor off of V2, and V3 you get an extension. So instead of just the 3 attacks at the start, you also get 3 more smaller attacks at the tail end of it. And I'll show that in a second. What's common in all 3 is control effects. So like Viper ult, Volta ult, Temuk ult, Justina ult. While she's winding up her blade, she's unaffected by it. What they've also changed is the behavior of the left and right click. Hime is a lot more dangerous and a lot more offensive. And I'll show you what I mean by that.
My blade is ready to unsheath.
So I'll be using the basic one.
I shall purify the souls of their filth.
So as you can see, she can use the left click to move, or she can just stay in the air. Her blade or you know, her spirit vortex will come out if you left click, otherwise you stay suspended in the air. Now her right click throws it out much faster. Gain health and armor back, but V2 Restore gives you a lot more. Tell you what I mean by a lot more. See, I put myself at very low health. I've gotten all my health back and at least a chunk of armor in a little bit. Whereas if I were to use the first one, I'm only going to gain so much back. 39 health. 162. And 102. So it's a lot less than V2, which is a lot more. So this is a way more sustainable choice, is V3. There you can see you have an extra 3 blades to throw out. Weakness of Yoto is still that you can still avoid her ult. It's just a lot harder to avoid her ult nowadays because She has way more control over it. The same principles apply to her old ult in the sense that you have to get close to her so she can't wind her ult downwards. I'll show
My
you what I mean by
blade.
that.
I shall purify the souls of their filth.
So if you were right underneath
What
her,
else I can do?
it's pretty easy for her to hit you, right? But when I mean I get close to her, you get close to her and then you move past. Because she can only shoot downwards. The closer you are to her, it's just like, or you know, you put just enough distance away from her so you can see when or where the blade comes out. You can no longer stand still and tap dodge it, but you can still keep moving around it. You have to be constant moving around her ult. It's definitely harder to avoid than Tianhai's grabs, but the same principle still applies of playing DDR to avoid the grabs and the ults, right? Just like Justina as well. Counterplay to Yoto Hime's ult and her Beyblade is, of course, still movement and breaking line of sight. Because there are certain terrain that Blade will not go through, like environmental mountains, rocks, or certain elements that are more natural formations. Whereas unnatural formations like buildings and Celestra, the ult will go through. Now, if you're playing Yoto
My
Hime,
blade is ready to unsheath.
you want it ult mid combo
I shall
or while
purify
they're
the
in your
souls of
F1.
their filth. Guard your thoughts, Daddy.
And you want to alternate between your left and right, just depending on their timing, if they're staggered, or all the above. Also, where they are located. And that pretty much concludes the updated Yoto Hime 101 guide. May Booba reign supreme, and Tomboy supremacy. Yeah, look at that midriff. That gives you a pretty good idea on how to play the Crimson Blade. And if you have any more questions on how to play Yoto Hime, feel free to comment below. Or any questions on how to fight against her. I do free coaching. I'll link the EPAL link in my description. And yeah, feel free to give feedback if you have any tech you'd like to share. Feel free to share.